Mm-hmm.
So, why don't we talk about some of the other news in relation to Sony and FromSoft? A new
Okay.
interview with Mr. Miyazaki, where he
God
talks
damn
about a couple things going on. And at first, I was like, "Is there much to discuss here?" And it's like, "Yeah, there's a couple
There's at least
takeaways."
one to
Yeah, yeah.
discuss.
So I was like, because it's like, okay, so a couple clippables, and it's like there's some fun stuff. Like one, he really liked playing It Takes Two with his friends. He
Cool.
enjoyed that. That was fun. So yay, nice to see that two good games are our two good creators are like bigging each other up. That's nice.
They're
Um,
friends.
Also, in terms of like, would he work with another creator or collaborate again in the way that he did with George R. R. Martin? And he says yes, but he would definitely want to do it with someone outside of gaming. Because the interview question kind of is more direct. Like, is there someone that you can name that you
Mhm.
absolutely want to work with? And he's like, it'd be hard to pick an individual, but if someone was really killing it, as in music or in, another genre entirely where they can bring in that thing that we don't do, then they'd love to work with them. So, sure. Um, the third noteworthy thing was for the nth time, um, his take on the difficulty of their games,
Yeah.
and nothing super new to add except for just the quote that is, we don't want players to feel like the game is unfairly punishing, but rather that there's a chance to win a difficult encounter and make progress. We understand Souls like games are regularly associated with impossible levels of difficulty and high barriers to entry, but we try to design the games to make the cycle of repeatedly trying to overcome these challenges enjoyable in itself. So that's essentially the core idea. Is like, for anyone who wants to talk about changing the design by including this, putting that in, is it time for FromSoft to blah, 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 all that? It's like the design they're going for is one where the repetitive process is enjoyable, and they're hoping that'll
Mhm.
work out for most audiences.
It's enjoyable to a certain amount of people. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are um, just pissed that they'd have to
Yeah.
redo anything. And to those folks, then there's a lot of things that are going to make them pissed. Honestly, the difficulty thing, I'm very interested in seeing how Elden Ring works out because I feel like it's going to be the easiest by far, solely because of the ability to have so much more non-mandatory parts of the game to go and get beefy on.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say because you can do a focus attack crumple on everything.
No. I
Okay.
mean, because like if you played the network test or saw people do the network test, the mandatory area in the network test was the equivalent of like 3 bonfires and maybe like 90 minutes of stuff
Mm-hmm.
follow ending with a boss,
Mm-hmm.
whereas there was like 12 hours worth of content in that. And the difference between going straight there and going everywhere else was night and day.
So how fucking insane will the struggle be though if you mainline it towards multi-limb man,
Probably fucked. It's probably gonna be fucked.
hyper insane, super fucked, turbo fucked, might almost say.
Yeah.
Um, so the wall that would present would absolutely be, if there's not an in-game message with the lady telling you, hey, maybe you should go explore other areas for a while and then come back. I
Yeah.
would, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like along those lines, because if it's only 3 or 4 to the main line, you still need a certain amount of fucking XP behind your ass before
Mhm.
you get through that wall.
You know, about the what you were talking earlier about Miyazaki wanting to maybe work with somebody else that's not in gaming. Have you seen? I forget where it was. It might have been some convention, but it's Brandon Sanderson and a colleague talking about George R. R. Martin being asked to do the writing for Elden Ring.
No.
Brandon Sanderson is a prolific fantasy writer, and he's also the gentleman who finished The Wheel of Time. So
Mm-hmm.
he's up there. Like, if not for the Game of Thrones TV show, he'd probably be like right up there with George, right? And his colleague or friend, I don't know who it is, but starts talking about how like they asked George, and it's weird because they're all writers, I guess, because they just refer to him as George,
Mm-hmm.
nothing else, to do the stuff for Elden Ring when he's like, he doesn't even know what a video game is. Meanwhile, Brandon over here has played all of their games and lists them as his favorite games of all time, and constantly talks about the writing in those games. And
Yeah.
like Sanderson is very polite,
Yep.
and he's in no way dismissive. And I think his answer is something along the lines of like, "Well, they asked who they asked, and good for them, and I hope they work."
Mm-hmm.
But he looks like visibly miserable. Like he looks like he's doing his best to be polite, but he clearly looks slighted, and I feel bad because dude's like top of the fantasy writing world, and then George comes along, and George isn't gonna finish his book. Like when I typed in Brandon Sanderson to make sure I was saying his name correctly, I found like multiple finished book series.
But George is hot. He's in the seat.
Stormlight Archive, the Mistborn box set, etc. The Wheel of Time.
Oh man.
Like,
would
it's
he
like,
have been the guy
oh,
that would show up to the the brunch pitch meeting with a giant fucking folder that he already had written full of ideas,
I've been working on
Maybe.
this for 6 years.
But hey, you don't gotta, it's no big deal.
Like, there is an unironic possibility that Sanderson will actually also finish Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like,
I would I mean, again, you want to assume George has been in talks with somebody. But anyways, what are you going to say though? Like, the name Grimm right now that in and of itself is a hot button ticket. Like, even if it results like on a purely functional level, the way they described the relationship, where he provided the setting and the mythos and the characters, and then they did the legwork themselves and such, is one where it's beneficial, and what we're going to see is probably pretty cool because of it. But from the outside, on just a headline money cash grab perspective, being able to say the Game of Thrones guy is involved with this new, it's like that on its own is a marketing tool. Like it's too
I have to
huge
say,
to resist.
One of the things I'm most excited about Elden Ring is this meta thing of like staring at its characters and its dialogue and its plot, and just like attempting to figure out like, is the deal to just put his name on the box? Like legitimately. Like, how much George is in here?
Yeah. Well, so in this interview, something that kind of touches on that is the part where they describe that Sekiro was a bit more of a straightforward narrative,
It
and
very much was, yeah.
and that they're bringing that straightforwardness into Elden Ring's story, but with George R.R. Martin's guidance, So for all the ups and downs, you know,
I just had this idea of the process where they show him a piece of art of like 4 babies stapled together with a golden halo, and George goes, "Who's that?" And the art guy goes, "It's called The Unknown Child." And he goes, "Okay, but who is it?" And then the guy goes, "It's a mystery." And George goes, "No, stop it."
Who? What? Yeah. But no, they kind of they they kind of mentioned that they're going for something a little more straightforward in this, like kind of like with Sekiro. And straightforward can come back to bite you in the ass if the straightforward isn't great. Um,
Yeah.
so if the straightforwardness that is referred to that we look at is George's stuff and George's stuff is good, then yay. Um, because I mean, I don't think it's too controversial to say that some of Sekiro's stuff was kind of eh, you know. So, um, anyway, I think
I like
in
the
the end,
part where the old man got birthed out of the guy's neck. That part was cool.
I like when the samurai pulled out the gun.
You know what I couldn't believe about that? Is that he pops out of the neck, but he's still old.
Yeah, he doesn't look young and cool. He's still
Like,
an old
I
man.
really thought it was going to be the young man version in his peak. And, like, the implication is like, nah, his peak was 10 minutes ago. Right before he died of tuberculosis or whatever the fuck he got.
Yeah, no, so, we'll see what happens. And hopefully the Elden Ring version of talking to the Rice Kid for an hour will be good. And George will do some cool shit.
I'm gonna make a bold not claim. What am I prediction. Elden Ring's side quest situation with its endings will be an astonishment in comparison to their earlier works. I foresee this game being a game in which around the date of March 1st, Twitter threads and GameFAQs boards will start filling up with what the fuck? Why did I get that ending? What the fuck is this? Only to be responded with, did you go to the pool of the ancients in the hidden undersea valley on the third day of the moon and talk to the patches and he'd give you the rice?
Sorry, bro. You stared at Angela's knife too long.
Like, they have, oh god, like in the fucking network test, they already found like a weird fucking world state that may or may not be like an ending thing. Like, it's going to be the worst about this. Like, I thought Dark Souls 3 was the limit, which was don't stab this statue to miss out on your secret ending nonsense. And then Sekiro happened, which was teleport between these locations 6 times to feed this child enough rice.
Do the fucking rice mission, idiot.
Like,
shut the fuck up and feed the rice.
Like, try doing even something half as complicated with that on a landmass the size of Skyrim. Like, there's
also like, upload your save.
Nobody's gonna get it.
And back it up on a USB. And you can't do that anymore. Okay, well, upload your save and then turn off save uploads, and then make sure you pull it down when you've gotten what you want, so that you can overwrite your shit.
In a game that's going to be like 180 to 100 hours and all that shit, I genuinely foresee, because of the autosave, a situation in which the vast majority of people are going to do something they can't take back that seems like the most natural thing in the world. Like, oh, did you sit down at that bonfire? Ooh, too bad. Or, oh, did you kill that boss without using a fire attack? Oh, locked yourself out of 3 of the 7 endings.
But 1 to 3 will still be a choice.
Yeah. Like, I foresee. Oh,
I don't see this this frustrating ending choice part of the FromSoft game is one that it feels like they're committed to that. They enjoy that process, and you can't take it away from them.
They every game they do it, they want it to be that people who discover it on their own feel like it's a miracle. And people just drive down harder into looking it online, and they make it harder every time.
And no matter how much you might not want it, they don't care if they enjoy it. And to hammer that point home, let's get to the next part of the interview, where Miyazaki says, "When making the game, I rediscovered my love for making poison swamps. I know how people feel about them, but you know, I suddenly realize I'm in the middle of making one and I just can't help myself. It just happens." You motherfucker.
There's gonna be...
You son of a bitch. To just say it so nonchalantly. So casually.
There is absolutely going to be a swamp per biome.
God.
Like per continent, per, you know, whatever you want to call it.
This one like kills your health. This one breaks your equipment. This one's just toxic blow darts. He can't stop.
I can't think of like a maligned zone type that a developer has so actively fought to include in every game and remixed every time.
Man. Like literally, I'm saying, like, you're gonna get your variety. You're gonna get your strip your armor off and run naked through the corrosive swamp. No damage, but if you put anything on, you're fucked. You know.
The part that's like the nightmare here is like, since we have a mount now, the poison swamp has the luxury of being allowed to be functionally massive.
So he literally even said the name. He's like, right? He's like, there's something called Scarlet Riot, and it's a little bit of something that is separate from poison or toxicity, but I hope you look forward to it. Like, he's like, in terms of Elden Ring, there's something horrible that exists and persists in the world. It's called Scarlet Riot, and it's worse than toxic. So look forward, he says. He's fucking enjoying. He's enjoying this process. Man, so yeah. Put up dump points into adaptability or what? What are we doing?
No, I don't. I don't think that stat even exists.
Well, you know, the stupid resistance stat. Scarlet Rot, excuse me, not Riot. Scarlet Rot. Yeah, it's kind of it's wild and belligerent, but it's like it explains so much of what we've seen in every other game up until now, where they're like, someone's pulling on his arm, trying to get, and he's moving the mouse, and they're literally trying to force his hand back, and he's like, nope, you can't, nope, I'm making it, and they're like yanking the chair away, and he's still squatting, keeping it going. No matter what happens.
Of changes that have been made to these games to make them a little bit more accessible or a little less ridiculous, or like there's the quote about from Miyazaki right after Dark Souls 1 came out, where we're talking about the archers on Anor Londo. You remember that? Where he goes, yeah, okay, maybe we overdid it. Right?
Sorry, just like everyone's telling him not to do it. And so Miyazaki's in the bathroom staring at himself in the mirror going, Tatakai! Tatakai! Fight! Keep the swamps in the game. They'll never take it from you. So
right, they made like, okay, maybe went too far with the Anor Londo archers, right? This, that. It's like, you have to remember, like, regardless of those feelings afterwards, this is still the same person who went, what if these enemies breathed on you and knocked your health down to 25% unless you found an NPC to cure it? This is the same guy who, like, was running play tests on 14 FPS Blighttown and going, yeah, this is good. Yeah. This is the same this is the same person that 5 years after, or 6 years after, apologizing for the Dark Souls 1 archery shenanigans, when they make a sequel to that area where you're climbing up the same part of the same parapet in Anor Londo, they added like 7 or 8 of the same archers to shoot at you the whole time. Like,
Uh, like, let's get creative. What kind of has there been a bleed swamp? No. How do we create a bleed swamp?
there
How do
has been a
we?
bleed swamp.
Oh, like the spikes on the ground, kind of.
No, the bleed swamp is the Nightmare of Mensis. It's just the swamp is of the vision cone from the tower, right?
Just
Because bleeds as a status is build up, pop.
pop, yeah.
And so the Nightmare of Mensis, when you're going through that area, it's a horizontal swamp instead of a vertical one, in which you instead of standing on land, you're hiding behind barriers. So yes, they've
Damn.
absolutely done that.
Yeah. Just reviewing levels and finding new places to swampify. Never stop swamping.
Somebody pointed out they've also done a curse swamp. Irithel Dungeon in Dark Souls 3 has enemies that look at you, and your health the bar drains instead of your health.
Yeah. Yeah, that counts. All of that counts.
Like,
just ailment zone. The world is a fuck mode.
if you want to get
Like,
real creative, you could say that Shrine of Amana is a projectile swamp.
it can be considered. It can be considered.
The
And just
status effect is just getting hit by projectiles.
And like going back to Demon Souls Remake, and one of the new items just being a ring that lets you walk in the muck and not be slowed down. And it's like, guys, we made this without his permission. If you shut the fuck up, we'll ship the game with it.
Yeah.
We got it out behind his back. Anyways. Yeah, that's his thing.